Welcome to HH28, where we unravel the secrets of self-discovery and matchmaking. We are Hugh and Heather,
two master holistic guides dedicated to helping you navigate the worlds of numerology, astrology, and personality in pursuit of meaningful connections.
Ever feel like you're speaking a completely different language than someone?
Oh, totally.
Even when you're like using the same words.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're making decisions and they're coming at it from a totally different angle.
Absolutely.
Or your social batteries are like on opposite ends of the spectrum. You just operate differently.
You just vibe differently. I hear you.
What if it's not just like random chaos? What if there's a way to actually decode some of that?
Oh, tell me more.
We're talking ESFP compatibility.
You've probably heard of the Myers-Briggs, right?
Of course. But today, we are going way deeper.
Ooh, juicy.
We're talking the good, we're talking the bad, and the downright fascinating when it comes to ESFPs navigating like love, work, friendships, all of it.
All the messy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
All right, so ESFP, extraverted, sensing, feeling, perceiving.
Okay.
So we've all heard that classic ESFP described as the life of the party, right?
One who lights up the room.
Exactly, the one who brings that energy.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting. One source mentioned ESFPs being incredibly adaptable, which, awesome for traveling with different people.
Great.
But how does that play out in, like, choosing a career path where you kind of need a direction?
Oh, interesting.
Now that I want to know.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because that adaptability, it's great for spontaneity.
Totally.
But yeah, could make it hard to commit to one path when you've got all these possibilities.
It's like they're the ultimate yes man.
Ooh, that could be tough. A little overwhelming, maybe.
Right. And speaking of ESFP strengths, and some of them sound like, honestly, amazing in a partner.
Oh, like what?
Okay, so one that really jumped out was empathy. Like off the charts, deep empathy.
That's huge, especially these days.
And you know what that translates to? Being a really great listener.
So important, being there for someone.
But, and this is interesting because this desire to keep the peace.
Everyone gets along.
Right. It could mean that ESFPs avoid conflict even when it's necessary to, like, address those issues.
Oh, so it's almost like their superpower of empathy can backfire.
Backfire in a big way. Like sometimes you got to have those tough conversations, right?
Absolutely. You got to clear the air.
Okay, so we've got adaptability, we've got empathy. What other, like, amazing ESFP strengths did we find?
All right. Well, there's zest for life. You can't teach that.
So true.
And they're amazing at finding joy in, like, the everyday stuff.
Which is huge.
And that enthusiasm, it's infectious.
Yeah.
Especially for people who are, more serious or reserved. It's magnetic.
I bet. It's like they bring the party with them.
Exactly.
But let's be real. Maintaining that level of energy long term takes a special kind of person.
Oh, for sure. Not everyone can keep up.
Speaking of keeping up, we got to talk about love.
Ooh, yes. The love department. Always juicy.
Which personality types are, like, most compatible with ESFPs when it comes to romance?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, so one that popped up a lot, ISFJs.
ISFJs. Oh, interesting. Okay, tell me more about that pairing.
So ISFJs are known for being super dependable, grounded. They like to create a stable, harmonious environment.
Which, I mean, for an ESFP who's all about spontaneity.
Could be a really good thing.
Right. They need someone to, like, ground them a little bit.
Exactly. It's like that perfect balance of excitement and stability. The ESFP plans the adventure. The ISFJ makes sure the bills are paid. There's a clean towel when they get back.
It's like the perfect yin and yang. I love it. Okay, so that's a good one. What about the other end of the spectrum? Any, like, challenging matches for ESFPs?
Oh, yeah. One source pointed to INTJs as being potentially tricky.
INTJs. Ooh, that's a spicy one. Okay, break it down for me. Why might that be tough?
Well, remember how we were talking about ESFPs sometimes avoiding conflict?
Yeah. Wanting to keep the peace.
And their, shall we say, love of spontaneity?
Which might be the understatement of the century.
Exactly. Well, INTJs, they're planners. They thrive on logic, on structure, on having a plan for everything.
Okay, so like the opposite end of the spectrum.
Totally. So imagine an ESFP being like, let's just book a last-minute flight and see where the wind takes us.
And INTJs having a meltdown.
Total meltdown.
Yeah.
Cue the relationship drama.
Oh, I can see it now.
So if that's love, what about friendships? Does that same dynamic hold true?
I'm curious, because some people, they thrive on that kind of like opposites attract energy.
Right. It's true.
So does it work for ESFPs in friendships?
Well, it's actually really interesting because while INTJs might be like challenging romantic partners for ESFPs.
Okay.
In friendships, the dynamic can actually be super complementary.
Whoa, really? Now that's interesting. Tell me more about that. What makes that friendship tick?
Okay, so think about it. INTJs are often described as insightful, strategic thinkers.
Yeah.
They can see the big picture.
Right. Big picture people.
And they can come up with those creative solutions that maybe an ESFP, because they're so focused on the here and now, might miss.
Oh, so they balance each other out.
Exactly. It's that balance.
I love that. Okay, so what you're saying is the INTJ might help the ESFP think things through a
A
little
little bit, just a tad.
before they like jump in with both feet.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, so they bring that balance. And on the flip side, the ESFP brings the fun.
Oh, yeah. They can help the INTJ loosen up a little, get out of their head, embrace those spur-of-the-moment things that bring a little joy and spontaneity into their life.
That's so important. Everyone needs that friend.
Right. Everyone needs that friend.
The one who's like, let's go do something crazy.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about a potentially tricky one. We've talked about a surprisingly good one. What about those friendships that are like absolute magic?
Okay, yeah, let's talk about those dream team friendships. Who are those perfect matches for ESFPs?
So our sources said ESFPs and ENFPs. Two peas in a pod.
Oh, that tracks. They sound like they'd get along famously.
They do. This is that dynamic duo that we were reading about who can talk for hours, always have each other's backs no matter what.
Ugh, friendship goals. Okay, tell me more. Tell me more. What makes these two such a great match?
Okay, so they both crave adventure, new experiences, connecting with others on like a really deep level.
So it's not just about like surface level fun.
Not at all. But there is a lot of fun.
Oh, I bet. I can just imagine them being the life of the party.
Oh, 100%. Bouncing off each other's energy, never a dull moment.
And you know they've got the best stories.
Always. But, you know, it's not just about the fun. They also have this really deep understanding of emotions, both their own and, like, picking up on the emotions of others.
That's huge.
So when the ESFP needs to, process something, the ENFP is right there with a shoulder to cry on and a listening ear.
The ultimate support system. I love it. Okay, so we've got the dream team, but there's always that one friend where it's like, ooh, that's a little bit of a bump in the road.
It's a little bumpy. It's not always smooth sailing.
So for ESFPs, are there any friendships that tend to be a little bit rockier?
Our sources did mention that ESFPs might encounter some bumps in the road with ESTJ friends.
ESTJs. Okay, remind me about them again. They're like the super organized ones.
Super organized.
Efficient.
Yes.
Rule followers.
All the rules.
Okay, got it.
And, while there's nothing inherently wrong with that,
No, of course not.
it can clash a little with that go with the flow, spontaneous ESFP.
Oh, yeah, that's like oil and water right there. They just don't mix.
Okay, so imagine them trying to, plan a project. The ESTJ is like, we need a strict timeline, detailed plan.
Color-coded spreadsheet.
Exactly. And the ESFP is over here improvising.
Making it up as they go. Oh, my gosh. I can see the tension already.
ESTJs can be very direct.
Oh, yeah.
Which sometimes can feel a bit harsh to the more feeling-oriented ESFP.
Right, like, okay, I get it. No need to sugarcoat it.
Totally.
So they might accidentally step on each other's toes from time to time.
It happens. But again, it's not about saying this type is good or bad for an ESFP. It's more about, understanding these are the potential areas where they might need to be more mindful.
Absolutely. It's like a heads up, right? Like, hey, just be aware of this dynamic.
Totally.
So that they can navigate it.
And communicate more intentionally,
Yeah.
right? Because it's all about meeting each other halfway, recognizing that everyone's got their quirks and their styles. Speaking of styles, we've talked about love, we've talked about friendships. What about work, like the workplace? What are ESFPs like as colleagues?
I feel like they'd be great to have in the office. They bring the energy. They're good with people.
You're so right. ESFPs can totally lighten up a workplace.
They bring that enthusiasm. It's infectious. And they're usually the ones boosting morale, making work actually enjoyable.
But
There's always a but, isn't there?
there's always that flip side. So spill it. Which ESFP strengths could backfire at work?
Let's start with that sensitivity.
Okay, the empathy.
It makes them incredible friends, amazing partners. But in the workplace, feedback. It can hit differently.
Oh, interesting. So even if it's constructive criticism meant to help.
Could still sting a little extra. They might take it to heart.
So picture this, right? ESFP is leading a project, deadline's coming up,
Uh-oh.
and it gets missed. That feedback, even if it's coming from a good place.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Tough to hear. Makes sense. Okay, what else? What other strength could be tricky?
Their impulsivity, amazing for brainstorming, coming up with those out-of-the-box ideas. But for sticking to a strict deadline or a project that needs tons of detail and you got to see it through.
Not their forte.
Might be a struggle.
So they need that fast-paced environment.
Yeah, where they can use their people skills, be creative. That's where they shine.
But a job with lots of solo work, tons of planning.
Recipe for feeling stifled.
Got it. So which colleagues are potentially tough for ESFPs to navigate? Give me the inside scoop.
One source pointed to INTJs. Working together could take some extra effort.
INTJs, the planners.
The strategic masterminds. Love them, but they're all about long-term plans, analyzing everything.
The opposite of how ESFPs roll.
Basically. So imagine these two trying to tackle a project.
Oh, boy.
The INTJs got it mapped out weeks in advance. The ESFPs like, let's just go with the flow.
Recipe for disaster.
At least a few tense meetings.
For sure. Plus, their communication styles are different.
Night and day. INTJs are so direct, to the point. And ESFPs, they're thinking about everyone's feelings.
So an INTJ might accidentally offend them with feedback, even if it's meant to be helpful.
Exactly. And neither one is wrong. Just different approaches. They both bring something to the table, but those differences, friction is inevitable.
You got to bridge that gap.
Big time. Recognize those differences. Figure out how to communicate better. That's key.
Okay, any other potentially tricky pairings for ESFPs in the workplace?
ESFPs and ISTPs, that's another one that might need some work.
ISTPs, the independent ones, right?
The ultimate problem solvers. But they're very much in their own heads.
So imagine a brainstorming session. The ESFPs like bouncing ideas off everyone. That energy's high.
And the ISTP is in their own world, processing silently.
And then, boom, they come back with a solution. But the ESFP might feel unheard.
Totally. Misunderstandings waiting to happen.
It's those communication styles again.
Always comes back to communication.
So who are those colleagues that are like a dream come true for ESFPs to work with?
ENFJs, apparently, they just click.
ENFJs, the charismatic ones, the leaders.
Spot on. They can inspire anyone to do anything. And they genuinely want their colleagues to thrive.
Which probably fits really well with that ESFP enthusiasm for connection.
100%. Plus, they often have shared values. Teamwork, creativity, a positive environment, all that good stuff.
They bring out the best in each other.
Total synergy. Everyone benefits.
Okay, so finding the right job, the right colleagues. Huge for ESFPs.
Makes all the difference. And that's why I love this stuff. It's not about putting people in boxes.
Right.
It's about understanding them better.
Having that knowledge can help us navigate all kinds of relationships, work, personal, everything.
It's like a cheat sheet for understanding people.
Yeah.
Because we all have those little quirks.
It's those aha moments when a relationship just makes sense or you realize why it takes more work.
Exactly. And the more we understand that in ourselves and others, the better.
More awareness.
More empathy.
So true. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into ESFPs and the wild world of compatibility.
It has been a journey.
What's one thing you want our listeners to take away?
Oh, that's a good one. I think it's this. Understanding personality types. It's not about labeling or predicting. It's about seeing people through a new lens.
Totally. We all perceive the world differently, make decisions differently, and that's okay.
More than okay. It's what makes us interesting.
It's about embracing those differences, those quirks. That's what makes life fun.
Preach.
And who knows, maybe this has sparked something for you. Maybe you're thinking about your own personality, your own relationships.
I hope so. It's fascinating stuff.
Because the more we get it, the more fulfilling our connections can be.
Absolutely.
On that note, a huge thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been so fun.
We hope you learned something new and maybe even see your own relationships a little differently.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep embracing all those fascinating contradictions that make us who we are.